Sandy, in its overview, was one of the largest disasters the American Red Cross had responded to. Sandy, moved up the coast and did some damage, along the area south of Jersey, but then moved up Jersey, covered the entire coastline of Jersey. It went then through the 5 boroughs of New York, out onto Long Island, went a little bit up into Connecticut, stretched west into New Jersey and upstate New York, not necessarily providing damage, but there was power outages. Navigating through the area was a tremendous challenge because, as I said, of no lights, no traffic lights. The magnitude is hard to comprehend if you're not there. One of the best ways I can explain it is Red Cross rates their disasters on a scale from 1 to 5. We were told through our management team that Sandy, like Alabama and Katrina, was probably a 6 or a 7, which means it was above the normal scale that Red Cross uses. We had every emergency response vehicle in our fleet in New York and New Jersey, other than Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, I believe, which was 300 trucks.
We were staying in a motel without light and water, or without light and heat. And one woman said, "I'm staying at the one of the workers said, I'm staying at the hotel tonight because my house is underwater." So was that. There was stories of, when we're talking water, we're talking 3 to 6 feet of water inundating communities. And by the time we got there, most of the water had gone, but you could still see the devastation.
There were a few clients who had lost family members, but they weren't left alone. They had their other family members, and that was the most frustrating part about this, was hearing them talk about losing their family member to the house that collapsed or to flooding. And I would ask them, why didn't they evacuate? Why didn't you evacuate? And they said, because of Irene last year. They made such a big deal out of it, and then it wasn't a big deal. So like I said before, no one is exempt from disasters, and it's not worth risking your life. But they didn't want to leave their homes, they didn't want to leave their things, and that's understandable, but it's just a lesson to be learned and to be more prepared.
When we drove in, it looked like a disaster. All of their possessions from their homes were sitting by the curb, waiting for the pickup. The first lady that came to the truck to get a meal was Russian, and she was actually in pretty good mood, and she was grateful for her meal, and she talked to me about the neighborhood and some of the people that had been affected. And she explained to me that part of the reason the clients were clients is because some of them did not know they were supposed to evacuate. They either didn't have their television on. She said, I didn't have my television on all weekend. By the time I saw it, all I had time to do was get my important papers and my credit cards and leave. Another lady named Allison told me she lived in a basement apartment. They had some kind of a robocall to tell people to evacuate. The other side of the street got it and she didn't. And she lost everything in her basement apartment. She was in shock. She was very frail. We handed her meal and she fell to the ground and sat there on the sidewalk and ate her meal. It does take a high psychic toll on the people, the volunteers for the Red Cross who are doing this. The hardest part for me was we were handing out these meals. Cliff and the other people were working very hard in the truck, making them as fast as they could. And there was a gentleman on the other side of the street. There were 2 lanes of traffic between us and him, and he was older. He kind of reminded me of my dad. And he was rolling up the street in one of those little motorized wheelchairs. And he looked over at me with this haunted look that I will never forget. So I got a meal and 2 bottles of water, and I took him across the street to him. And he said, "Thank you, and God bless you." And as he rolled up the street, he started crying, and the tears were rolling down his face.